Zach, do you want to put him on speaker, honey? Hey, baby.
Hello.
Hey, you, honey.
I'm very good, beautiful.
Dan, is there anything you want to ask Zach? Or Zach, did you want to ask Dan something, honey?
Dan, I've got absolutely no concerns. The facts are all there with the case, and it all stands and speaks for itself.
Okay, Zach, I'm not going to ask you any questions at the moment. You talk to your family, you go for it.
Yeah, honey.
Oh, yeah, because at the time, it didn't make sense why the judge, he was like, I have no choice but to give you 20 years. I've been in here treated as a murderer. I still have to do their violent offenders course. I remember looking at the head psychologist and going like, but if I didn't actually hurt anyone and I wasn't violent in any such nature, why do I have to do it? And she's just gone, oh, because your case has got high notoriety.
The voice on the phone you heard then was Zach Grieve, a young Indigenous man who was sentenced to jail for life in 2012 for a murder the judge found he did not physically commit. Zach's from Katherine in the Northern Territory of Australia.
That's Zach as a baby with his brother Terry.
His family say he knew something about the killing, but wasn't there when it took place. And the judge agreed. In fact, the judge called his own decision to send Zach to jail an injustice. I'm a crime reporter, and I've covered countless murders, and I've never seen anything like this.
I'm heading for Katherine to see where the murder took place. It's the start of the dry season, and this is my first time in Australia's far north. Everything here is new to me. When people ask me what I'm doing, I say I want to find out why a murder happened here. What did Zach do, and how has he ended up in jail for life?
I've spent the past couple of months reading the court transcripts for Zach's case, and while I do have a lot of questions, a few things seem to be pretty clear. On the night of Sunday, the 23rd of October, 2011, 3 men met here to carry out the murder. The first of them, Chris Malishko, had only recently moved to Katherine to work and save up money for his wedding. Chris's mate Zach Grieve, worked 2 jobs, in a pizza parlour and at his mum's shop. He was also a small-time cannabis dealer. The third man, Darren Halfpenny, was a tough bloke. He didn't finish school. He once described his lifestyle as lying around in bed all day, smoking dope and drinking rum and cokes. From here, the men drive west, across Katherine. The men stop here at Chris Malishko's unit. They go inside, and once they're in there, they play Xbox and they watch anime, that's Japanese animation, together. As the night wears on, Chris buys Red Bull energy drinks to keep them all awake. Once back at the flat, Chris keeps coming outside to check if anyone is home there, the flat of their intended victim, 41-year-old Ray Nichiforo. Eventually, the lights do come on at Ray's place. His attackers put on plastic gloves and shower caps on their heads and over their shoes. They cut the power to Ray's flat. When he sticks his head outside to see what's going on, they attack him.
Ray's body is loaded into the white Ford Econovan, which is seen heading out of town at 3:44 a.m. The killers drive a dozen kilometres out of Catherine. Inside the van, one of them jokes that for an old man, Ray put up a bit of a fight.
Darryl?
Dan,
Good to meet you. How you doing?
Darryl Hill was working near the Gorge Road the day after the murder took place. He saw something lying in the scrub.
well, I picked the sheet up and had a look, and first thought, being a bit callous, first thought was just somebody thrown out a dead pig. And then I thought...
Oh, because you saw...
Well, it turned out it must have been his man's thigh. And then I thought, well, hang on, somebody wouldn't throw out a pig like that, especially wrapped up in sheets. So then I went back, started to walk away, turned around and lifted up another part of the sheet, and as soon as I saw a man's foot, and I thought, well, that's it. So then I walked back to the grader, got my phone off the grader, rang the police in Darwin.
The object contained within was certainly of human size. As I got closer, I could see a small portion of skin. Upon getting back to the grader, I notified police communications that confirmed it was a deceased male, and I determined that it was a suspicious death.
Your thinking is they dragged the body out in the night?
In the dark, yeah.
Not knowing where they were?
Not knowing where they were. Because if they had went the other side of the creek, which is heavy vegetation and undisturbed, and it would have been there forever. Nobody would have found it.
Pretty amateur attempt to get away with a killing, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it was all panic job.
Bit pathetic, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like Darryl said, it's the only bit of cleared land for miles around, and they dumped the body there, not even far from the road. It's just... what were those boys thinking?
Catherine's a small town. The police looked at who knew Ray and who was with those people on the night he died. Eventually, they came to Darren Halfpenny.
All right, and any other names we need to...
Everyone just calls me Spider.
On Darren's phone, they found a trail of text messages going back several days. Darren confessed.
I was on his back. Zach was down at his legs, and Chris finished him off, belted him over the top, the back of the head while he was on the ground.
Within hours, Zach and Chris were arrested. CCTV showed Chris buying plastic gloves and shower caps in the week before Ray's killing. At first, he said nothing.
There's allegations being made that you were involved in the death of Ray Niceforo on the night, Sunday through Monday.
Yeah.
Do you detail anything in relation to that?
No, I don't wish to talk about that.
Okay. Do you wish to provide your version of events on the evening?
No.
Is there anything else at all that you wish to say in relation to this matter?
No.
For the purpose of the recording, can you please state your full name and date of birth?
My name is Zach Grieve.
Zach also declined to talk to the police.
We'll be recommending to the shift sergeant that you are charged with murder and another other offences yet to be determined. All right, from that point, police will be refusing bail, and you may have the opportunity to review your bail with the magistrate. Do you understand what I mean by that?
If you could possibly talk to my lawyer to tell me so she could put it in layman's terms for me.
Yeah, I could put it in layman's terms if you like.
I'd love to hear it from her.
Okay.
The decision to charge Zach devastated his family. Zach's mother, Glenys, still lives in Catherine today.
That's part of it. Hi, hello.
Glenys?
How you going?
Hi. Good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
How are you doing?
Okay. Yes. Very good. End of the day, yes.
Sorry.
Hi, Jess.
Pleased to meet you, Dan. Tell me a bit about Zach.
Zach, fun-loving, people's person.
Yeah? Caring? You knew him as well?
Karen. Yeah, I went to school with him.
You went to school with Zach?
Yeah, I grew up with him, basically. And he's the godfather of my son.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's quite a big part in my life and was hoping my son's as well. But...
What effect has it had on you?
Oh, that's all right.
I'm sorry.
A big one.
Zachy, he just... Nothing was ever a problem. He'd always try to sort everybody's problems out, and he was just there for everybody.
Have you told your son much about his godfather?
Yes.
What do you tell him?
I tell him that Zach's a good person, even though, you know, whatever anyone else says, I don't care.
It's a hard question to ask, but how can you be so sure?
Because I knew him for so long. I knew who Zach was, and the papers only know him for a name.
To his family, Zach insisted he was innocent. But Chris eventually confessed.
It was a fair-sized wrench, maybe 60, 70 centimetres. It weighed about 2 kilo, 3 kilo.
Where'd you hit him?
I hit him on the head. I couldn't stop myself from hitting him.
Do you remember how you felt while you hit him?
I felt angry. I remembered everything that had happened, things that my mother has said. It was either Ray or my mum and myself.
Hang on, who is Chris's mother? And what does she have to do with Zach being sent to jail?
What is your full name? Anna Luisa Nelata Margareta Niceforo.
Do you swear by Almighty God to tell the truth to this court, so help you God?
I do.
Mr. DeSafaro, I want to ask you some questions about Ray, please.
You may.
Ray wasn't your best son, was he?
I think he was.
He was your best son.
Ray Niceforo is buried on his brother Nino's property outside Catherine. Next to Ray are his father and his nephew, Nino's son.
It's horrible.
Oh, that's pretty bad.
After spending time with the family, they agree that Nino's mother-in-law, Fran Casey, will speak on camera.
And I just want to make sure that we have your full consent to use the interview.
Mm-hmm.
Fran worked with Ray before he died.
Tell me how you remember Ray.
He's a nice fella.
What was he like?
Quite, he's a gentleman to me.
Why do you say a gentleman?
Well, he wasn't rude. He wasn't he didn't put out that he was rude or arrogant.
And you said he was a good man as well.
Yeah, well, I found him fine. I didn't find him angry or anything like that. I just worked with him for a couple of hours in the morning and that was fine.
Not everyone in Catherine agrees with this assessment of Ray.
Okay.
Hello.
Are you ready, darling? Yeah, okay.
Anna.
Okay. Hi.
Anna Quilloy, a local businesswoman, works opposite the town's laundromat, which was part-owned by Ray.
What were the family like?
I never had a problem with them. They're very good.
Yeah? But you had some dealings with Ray?
Yes, I did. He came in one weekend and said, "Where's your husband?" And I said, "Why?" He said, "I got a complaint to my customer." your husband refused to give dollar coins. I run the laundries. And he said to me, pointing
So,
like that.
with his thumb up?
Yeah, with his thumb to me. Tell your husband that in 24 hours, if I get a complaint regarding dollar coins that you refuse to give, you better not get out in this town, not to operate a business here.
Were you scared?
Well, I just checking. I'm checking, and a customer compelled me to ring the police.
So a customer said Ray might do something to you?
Yes, and then that's the time that I find out he done something in Main Street before.
What Ray did on Main Street became notorious. In 1999, he shot a man in the leg after a night of drinking. It's one of a series of violent or gun-related crimes for which he was convicted. But virtually every time, he was released. Ray's life changed in 2007 when he met a woman, Bronwyn. 4 years later, she took out a domestic violence order against him.
At the time, Ray and Bronwyn were running this laundromat. When they split up, a fight broke out over who should keep the business.
On the 19th of September, Bronwyn received a series of increasingly violent text messages from Ray's phone. Bronwyn received another message the next morning. She saw this as a threat to kill her son.
Half an hour later, Ray turned up here, where Bronwyn and Chris were working. Ray was banging at the door, threatening to rape Chris and to kill him.
He called me a poofter, a faggot. Shortly after that, he started saying about how he fucked my mother and made her bleed. That he fucked her up the ass and made her squeal. I was very scared.
Ray was charged with assault, but released on bail. 4 days later, Chris beat Ray to death.
I'm struggling to get my head around the whole thing.
The police suspected Bronwyn was involved.
No, I didn't know that either.
And you gave him the money?
No, I didn't.
At first, Bronwyn denied having anything to do with Ray's death, but a month after the murder, she cracked.
I can't hide the truth anymore from myself or the police.
All right, so there's an indication in what you've just said now that what you've told us prior to this.
Some parts of what I've said in the past haven't been exactly true.
Why are you telling the truth now?
Because I can't live with the guilt of it anymore.
Bronwyn told police she paid her son Chris $15,000 to have Ray murdered. Chris recruited Darren and Zach.
Hello? Hey.
Hey, Ratbag.
It's just me.
Now, I need you to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I've been arrested.
Okay.
And I've been charged for my involvement in Ray's murder.
You should have just kept quiet.
I can't leave you just there to take the fall for me. Ratbag, I do. I love you too much for that.
Oh, okay, Mum. You do know that I had something worked out, though.
You need to tell the truth. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Always remember that I love you.
I love you too, Mum.
At the trial, Bronwyn was found guilty of manslaughter, not murder, because of the abuse and threats she claimed to have suffered at the hands of Ray. She went down for a minimum of 4 years and has already been released.
If she cries, if she did an interview and she cried, those are crocodile tears, mate. She said she could always throw the tears on, always throw the tears in. Now, if she's interviewed with you, she'd be throwing the tears in. She's good at it, mate, she's good at it.
So what would you say if I said we had interviewed Bronwyn? What would you say to me?
Don't trust her. Don't believe her.
We have interviewed Bronwyn. After spending 4 years in prison, she's trying to rebuild her life, and we've agreed not to fully identify her here. You've heard what Fran Casey has to say. This is the other side of the story.
I met a man. He swept me off my feet, and I followed him.
This is Ray Nichifaro.
Yep. Once I was in Catherine, things started to change. He'd wake me up with a slap to the back of the head. From there, it progressed to kicks, cigarettes put out on my leg.
And you forgave him?
Yep. Deep down, I loved him.
Were you scared?
I was very scared. I came home from work one day to find him cleaning a double-barreled shotgun. He walked into the lounge room, pointed that gun at my face, that far away from it, told me to keep my fucking mouth shut or I would see both barrels.
I'm sorry. Did it get worse?
Yeah.
How much worse?
He would force himself on me in bed.
What would have happened if you had run?
I feared he would hunt me down, but not just me, my kids as well. He would also say things like, well, I'm going to make those boys of yours watch while I deal with you. Then I'm going to deal with them.
After the confrontation at the laundromat, Bronwyn told police she was scared for her life. Despite this, Ray was released on bail, and Bronwyn says that she felt hopeless.
I knew my life was in danger, that I'd never be able to get away from him. I was approached with an offer for someone to kill him.
Who approached you?
Christopher.
Your son? Were you told how it would take place?
No.
Did you ask?
No.
Were you told he would do it?
No.
You've explained what happened, how you met Ray, what he did to you, that you felt you couldn't get away, and that you felt police and the courts couldn't protect you. All of that does help explain what happened. Does any of it justify it? Do you regret it?
Yes, I do, actually. I do regret it. Even though it made me safe, it took away, or it took Ray's life for starters. He still had a right to his life. It has taken away, or will have taken away, at least 18 years of Christopher's life. It has put 2 other young men in prison for possibly life. It's taken a son away from a mother, and that's Ray and his mum. A brother away from other brothers. So, yeah, I do regret it, but I'm alive. And I don't think that if it hadn't happened, I don't think I would be alive today.
So this is how he left it on the night he was arrested?
Yeah, virtually.
Xbox games?
Yeah.
Teenage bands?
Yeah.
Glenys, you haven't touched this room, have you? I mean, there's a tube of Savlon.
Yeah.
Why not touch it?
Well, I always had that feeling that possibly, by some miracle, that this would be overturned and injustice wrong, that possibly he would come home. that I would have him home again. If it's private, answer it. Hello?
Zach Grieve is now in maximum security, but is allowed to call a few approved people, including his mum.
The call is being recorded and may be monitored. Go ahead, please.
Hi, baby.
Hello, beautiful. Good morning.
Good morning, honey.
Did I catch you sleeping?
No, baby, no, you didn't catch me sleeping. You just caught me with Dan, darling, and yeah.
Fair enough.
So yeah, I've just found some baby photos of you
Cool.
having a giggle here sprawled out on the bed.
Yeah, God, with turtle out and everything.
No, not that bad, darling, no. Yeah, with your blue and white socks.
Sir, this is Dan. I just wanted to be really clear about one thing, just for your understanding. We've been filming for purposes of using this, and we may use, part of this conversation. You're aware of that, and you're okay with that?
You have my full permission. I'm not worried at all, and I'm perfectly happy.
All right, thank you, Zach. I'm going to duck out now and just let you talk to your mum.
Tempting as it is, I decide not to ask Zach questions.
No, I appreciate that, but I think I'll just let you talk to your mum. That's more important.
The prison authorities have refused to let us interview Zach, and I'm worried about doing anything that could lead to him being punished for talking to me. If I can't or won't talk to Zach himself, I'm going to have to find other people in Catherine who can help me understand his part in the murder. Matthew Carroll was one of Zach's best mates in Catherine at the time.
This was the game.
So this is the one you used to play with Zach?
Yep.
So look, during the trial, Zach's barrister ran this defence where he basically said Zach plays so much computer games, smokes dope, lives on planet Zach, he can't distinguish between this and reality. I mean, what do you make of that?
I mean, everyone knows reality and fantasy. You ask anyone who plays video games and they will tell you that they know right from wrong. Games are an escape from reality.
Do you think Zach wanted to escape from reality?
I think everyone wants to escape from reality, man.
So Zach understood the reality of what was going on. But how real was it? Outside, I asked Matt about how well established the murder plot had become.
It was fairly known that someone approached me and offered me and told me about this thing that was going to happen. And this was months before.
The murder?
Yes.
So someone approached you and told you what?
They said, your friend, Chris, is looking to kill someone for money.
Do you remember who it was?
Yes, but I'm definitely not naming them.
Because you wrote something on Facebook after the murder, along the lines of, I knew as much as Zach about this.
Yeah, why didn't the police arrest me too?
Why say that?
Because the amount of people that showed up as witnesses in court, it was, what, 120, 130 people?
But not all of them knew about the murder in advance.
No, but I'd say a good solid 20, 30 people did.
I'm stunned to hear this. Who are these 20 to 30 people, and what exactly did they know?
Another of the key witnesses involved in the trial was a second of Zach Grieve's friends, a man called Tom Smith. And it was at his house that the three men met the night the murder was committed.
Zach had come over that day, we were alone. And he had asked me if he could trust me with the knowledge of the possibility of killing somebody.
Was there any further discussions between yourself and Zach concerning this topic?
In groups there was, yes.
What did he say?
He said he trusted me and that he wanted me to be his alibi for doing this. If he went off and killed this guy. I agreed, thinking I wasn't serious.
And who been there?
A lot of people. There was a lot of teenagers, a lot of people from Catherine High School there.
So yes, Zach's mates suggest he did agree to take part in the murder. But that does not mean he was there when it actually took place.
Time by my watch. It's 21:40 hours. Zach, just listen to me, Zach. You're under arrest for the murder of Rainey Sephora. Yeah. Okay. You need to come out this way with me, please.
His face was like in bewilderment, like, what the hell's going on? I had my hand on his leg and thinking, you know, and I could feel him going, starting to tremble, and I'm thinking, oh my God, like...
He was scared?
Yes.
Glenys, as well as Zach's brother Terry, was there when he first appeared in court.
I was working in the court system at the time with NARJA.
The North Australia
Aboriginal Justice Agency. Yeah. Of course, it's in the back of your mind when you go to work and you're performing your duties that your brother's going to be there with his murder charges. So it's a bit of a whirlwind of a day.
After the court hearing, Terry says he was approached by one of the detectives.
And he said to me that he believed that my brother didn't do it. He strongly believed that my brother didn't do it.
The police officer said that to you?
Correct.
But what did he mean? I mean, what was he getting at?
That Zach wasn't there.
You're saying that the police officer said to you...
Oh, no.
We don't understand what Zach's role in this was?
Sorry, Dan, you don't say nothing, mate. Your family member has just been arrested for murder.
And a police officer says to you, and you're just dumbfounded thinking, what?
How do I respond to that?
Look, memories can be unreliable, so it's impossible to know exactly what the detective said or what he meant. But Zach's dad, Warren Grieve, who's away working in the mines, tells me about a similar conversation with the same detective.
Well, me and Glenys, after they charged Zach with murder, we just walked out from the courthouse, sort of looking at each other going, just couldn't believe it. And he actually come across and called us over.
Okay, and what did he say?
At the time, he actually said he didn't think Zach had anything to do with it.
So he said to you he didn't think Zach had anything to do with it?
Yeah. That was within 15 minutes after they charged him with murder.
Tell me what we've got.
All of the evidence from the trial.
So this is all forensics. Transcripts of conversations between them.
Everything that's on audio CD has all been transcribed as well.
Emma Fuller is a law student in Darwin who spent almost 2 years working unpaid on Zach's case.
I was a bit worried the brief would be this big because it's a bit overwhelming. You don't really know where to begin with it, and we don't have an awful lot of time, and we have to get our head around it and work out which bits of these are...
It's life in law, mate.
It's life in law. Yeah, all right, this is the territory, and it's life in law, and you need to toughen up.
These documents allow you to trace the progress of the police investigation. And one thing I quickly realise is there's no forensic evidence against Zach. Chris Malishko's fingerprints were found inside the Ford Econovan. In Chris's flat, police found plastic gloves covered in Ray's DNA. In Darren Halfpenny's home, they found another plastic glove, again with traces of Ray's DNA. But there was no trace of Zach.
So that does fit with Zach's account?
That fits with the evidence that Zach gave.
Going through the boxes, it becomes obvious how heavily the prosecution relied on Darren Halfpenny's evidence that Zach was there when the murder took place.
I was standing here, Zach was standing roughly about here, and Chris was standing here. When the doors open, Zach's gone in first, and I have, and then Chris followed.
wrestled around, killed him.
The problem is, Darren Halfpenny is a liar. After confessing to the murder, he told police he burned his clothes from that night on Catherine Airfield. In fact, he burned them in a fire pit behind his house.
You lied to police about your part in destroying the evidence, didn't you?
Yeah.
And you don't care if you lie, do you?
It's not that I don't care if I lie, it's just when I lie, it just comes out.
The trial was held in Darwin, over 300 kilometres from Zach's home in Catherine. His brother Terry and Terry's partner Shannon left their jobs to be there to support him.
We were up there for 4.5 weeks paying $180 a night.
Yeah, we saw out the entire magistrates, travelling backwards and forwards.
Funny story on that. The second last night of magistrates, we were sitting at the back of Palmerston, at the Palmerston Lookout.
Eating Hungry Jacks.
And we had Hungry Jacks and we were looking at each other going, we got $50 left, 3/4 tank of gas. And then Shannon looked and I said, honey, they haven't thrown the case out. And she said, you know, we're moving to Darwin then for Supreme because we won't be able to survive Darwin.
So you moved up to Darwin for the Supreme Court trial?
Someone had to. Not only were we not going to let Zach sit there and rot, but we weren't going to let Mum and Dad and Tia and everyone else down by letting him do that.
Zach's family say they went to court every day, waiting for the piece of evidence that would prove he did not do what the prosecution claimed. Then Chris Malishko took the stand.
So I decided the killing of Ray needed to be done now. So I started loading everything into the van. I started with a wrench, a baseball bat and a steel pipe.
And did Zach have some conversation with you about that stage?
Yes, he did. He came outside and he told me he couldn't help me anymore. I asked him if he was sure that he couldn't do it, and he told me that he just couldn't help kill someone. I told him that I understood, and I dropped Zach off at his house.
This was the first time the authorities had heard this version of events.
What else happened in the conversation? Is this the extent of it that you've told us today? You can't remember anything else?
About what exactly?
Conversation you had with Mr. Malishko at the van at the time the weapons were being put in when you said, I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore.
Yes, that was it.
You didn't try to stop him? You didn't try to discourage him?
No.
You didn't say, go to the police, Chris, there are other ways to deal with Ray?
No. I just wanted to go home. Chris was my best friend, and I couldn't wait for him to take me home.
Zach's defence lawyers tell me the laws here in the Northern Territory mean it really didn't matter to the jury if Zach was there or not when the killing took place.
From what you're saying, the way the law works, they could have themselves thought that Zach wasn't there. They could have believed everything he said, everything you said, but they still had to find him guilty because the law said...
Directions from the judge.
The judge told them you have to find him guilty because he was part of the planning and he didn't pick up the phone and tell the police.
That's right. They were directed by the judge.
So even if they believed he physically wasn't there, they had to find out.
That's right. The application of that law created a severe injustice. A significant injustice puts a person in jail for life, and he wasn't there. He didn't do it. Now, tell me, where is the justice in that?
I turn now to consider the position of you, Zach Grieve. In view of my findings that you had pulled out at the last minute, you did participate in the planning, but it was not your plan. If I were free to do so, I would impose a lesser non-parole period than 20 years.
But in the Northern Territory, judges don't decide many of the sentences they hand out. Politicians do. They call it mandatory sentencing.
These laws said Chris Malishko could receive a 2-year discount on his sentence because he had been provoked in part by Ray's treatment of his mother.
Despite the evidence he wasn't there, the law said there could be no discount for Zach.
I'm therefore compelled to convict you and sentence you to imprisonment for life with a non-parole period of 20 years. I take no pleasure in this outcome. It is the fault of mandatory minimum sentencing provisions, which inevitably bring about injustice.
That sentence, more than anything else that has started us looking at this case, that has brought us to where we are today, it's that paradox. You've got a judge saying, what I am doing now is an injustice, and sending a man to jail for life.
So I've asked to talk to the judge himself.
In the case of Zach Grieve, the reason I spoke out was because Grieve was the one who was least to blame, by any moral standard anyway. He had pulled out at the last minute, and yet I could not give him less than 20 years imprisonment.
How does it feel to send a 19-year-old boy to prison for at least 20 years, particularly when you don't feel that that sentence is just?
Well, I feel very sad and disappointed that the system was left powerless to do anything about it.
That you were left powerless?
Yes.
How do you feel as a judge working within this system where your ability to properly preside over a case, to properly dispense justice, is constrained, is distorted in these ways?
Yeah, all you can do is your job. You can express your dislike, which is what I generally do, in the hope that the people will take notice of it, that the politicians will listen to it, and that we can stop the silly nonsense of mandatory minimum sentencing.
Do you regret what happened in this case?
Well, I would have liked to have imposed sentences that were just and fair. I was prevented from doing so. So yes, I do regret that.
This conversation leaves me feeling uncomfortable. A judge saying he was powerless. A judge calling the laws a silly nonsense. Imagine my surprise then to learn there is some hope for Zach.
So Zach's in prison. He was found guilty in the trial, and when he tried to appeal the decision, the court rejected it. All the lawyers who were involved in the case have left. The only person who's still looking at it is the 22-year-old law student, Emma Fuller. She's younger than Zach is now.
Right now, Emma represents Zach's only hope of getting out of jail early.
Put the lamb shanks with the mashed potato.
Working under the supervision of a barrister in Darwin, she's looking at what's called a mercy plea, which could see Zach released early from his mandatory life sentence. After studying the laws, Emma believes that just as the Queen has the power to send Zach to jail, the Queen also has the power to see Zach released.
There are a couple of possibilities. The first is under the Sentencing Act, where's the Crown's prerogative. The Crown at all times retains the prerogative to grant mercy to a prisoner.
Meaning, so the Crown has a prerogative of mercy, meaning the Crown can allow a prisoner out of jail?
Yes.
Do you talk to Zach?
Yeah.
So he knows you're working on his case?
Yeah.
What's he said to you?
Thank you.
This idea of a mercy plea, meaning Zach might actually get an early release, is something the judge himself recommended. Except, in the Northern Territory, no one has been granted a mercy plea in the past decade.
Thank you.
Straight ahead.
I asked the Territory's Attorney General, Natasha Files, to explain how the system works.
The administrator can be contacted asking for a plea of mercy. The administrator would then write formally to myself as the Attorney General, and I would seek the advice of the Solicitor General for the Northern Territory and then provide that advice back to the administrator.
Is the system not then ignoring the judge? Is it not taking away from the judge the ability to sentence the person for the time the judge believes is fit?
We need to look holistically at this, and we need to respect the separation of powers. I think is very important between the different domains.
I also asked the Attorney General about a public campaign that ran before the last Territory election called Making Justice Work.
One of the things they said was simply to end mandatory sentencing. They said it has no place, it doesn't make the community safer. Those were their words. So what do you intend to do?
We're genuinely looking at every aspect of it. We're genuinely looking at mandatory sentencing coming from that perspective of making our community safer.
So
we
you're
need to have an
looking
evidence.
at changing it?
When we're looking broadly at our justice system, we want to have an evidence-based approach, and mandatory sentencing is a part of that.
So you're reviewing it?
We are undertaking a body of work looking at our justice system.
And so that body of work you're undertaking is essentially a review of the system as it currently stands, but that will include mandatory sentencing?
Yes.
Okay.
Any change, of course, will come too late for Zach. Strangely, the more I look at this case, the more questions I have.
Has anybody tried to talk you out of coming in here to the police station to tell the truth?
Working through the transcript of the trial and these documents from the brief of evidence, one name keeps coming up. He was the housemate of Chris Malishko, the man who physically beat Ray Nichiforo to death. And he was good friends with Bronwyn, the woman who paid for the killing. And when we spoke to Bronwyn, she said this.
I was led to believe, both by Christopher and his flatmate, that Christopher would not be there at the time.
Who was his flatmate?
Nipper. We call him Nipper, but his name's Trevor Tydd.
I contacted the judge again, asking who Trevor was, and got this reply. So somehow, whatever Trevor might have known about the murder was never heard in court. Since we've been here, we've been trying to find him. Now, it turns out Trevor Tydd did give a statement to police just a couple of days after Ray's body was found, in which he says he was with Bronwyn at her house on the night of the killing. But if you look at Chris's evidence to the court, Chris Malishko, he says that Trevor was at their house when Chris got back shortly after killing Ray. Keep looking, and Chris says Trevor actually went with him back to the scene of the crime. But Trevor left Catherine after the murder took place. It's taken weeks to find him, but we're following a lead to where he works, a small mining town in northern Queensland.
Hi, mate. How you doing? We're trying to get in touch with a guy who works here. Guy by the name of Trevor Tydd. He works as a cleaner, that's all we know.
Subcontractor, maybe.
About your height, quite thin, dark hair. That could be our man, hey? Okay, well, listen, thank you for your time. All right, it's surprisingly hard to track down this fella.
But we do now have another lead. We've been given the name of the recruitment company that employed Trevor. So I call and leave a message asking him to call me back. Look, it's about a story I'm working on. Can I introduce the team?
Yeah. G'day. G'day. I spoke to you on the phone.
Oh, you're Luke.
I'm Luke, yeah. How you going?
I'm Nipper.
Yeah, g'day. Obviously, we're executing a search warrant here, and it's been executed with Bronwyn present.
Yep.
All right, can you just state your details for the video here, please?
Trevor Tydd on the PC.
Yeah.
No, I rent the place.
Yeah. No worries.
At the moment, all we have is glimpses of Trevor in the evidence.
Just checking there as well for us, please.
I'm not expecting him to return my call. Yeah, this is it. Hello?
Hello. Dan, is it?
Yeah, is that Nipper?
Yes, it is.
Trevor doesn't want to be interviewed on camera, but has agreed to this conversation being broadcast.
We'll see how we go.
First, I ask about the $15,000 used to pay for murdering Ray.
Because even one of the things Bronwyn mentions is that she was counting money with Christopher and yourself.
And the three of us counted it out, myself, Nipper and Christopher.
Yes, I was helping them count money, but I thought it was for bills.
So you were there counting the money, but you didn't know what it was for?
No, I didn't know what it was for.
The court heard Trevor held on to half of the cash.
We counted the money. It was how much should be there. After we counted it, I'm not too sure if I took it away or if I gave it to Nipper, but I told him that I needed it divided up into a first payment of $7,500.
Trevor told police he first heard of Ray's murder 2 days after it took place. But in court, Chris said he went home the night Ray was killed and woke Trevor up.
And what did you say to him?
I said I needed the rest of the money.
Yeah, well, I thought it was to give it to his mother.
Right, so he woke you up in the middle of the night and asked for the money, but you thought it was to give to his mum?
Yeah, well, I had a big night on the grog that night.
Okay.
It didn't click.
Okay. And you certainly didn't mention to the police anything about Chris asking you for the money?
No, it didn't come to mind.
The court also heard Trevor allegedly disposed of the murder weapons.
I remembered that I left the baseball bat and the wrench.
Yes.
And Nipper and myself go and collect them.
And did you ever dispose of the weapons?
No.
It's just that Bronwyn also talks about that in her evidence to the court and to the police.
No.
And tell me everything that Nipper's told you about this.
I didn't want to believe it.
Tell me what Nipper has told you, Bronwyn.
He said something about throwing them, hitting the tree, the bat hitting the tree, but then it plopped into the water. I don't know where. I honestly don't know where.
Why would they lie about that and say that you'd done it if you hadn't?
I would not have a clue. I honestly would not have a clue.
Maybe Trevor's right. Maybe both Chris and Bronwyn were lying. After all, both have lied to police before.
One last thing, and this was said in court as well. Bronwyn says that she asked Chris to arrange the murder and that she then wanted it to stop.
And I said again, call it off.
And she asked you if it could be stopped.
And I got told again, it can't be stopped.
By whom?
What do you say to that?
Again, I don't remember.
You don't remember that happening at all?
No, sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
It's okay. She says it happened. Go on.
Now I remember one of those conversations because we were watching a movie at the time. I just thought she was talking about a contract on the movie. And I just thought she was asking me, if they put a contract out, can you stop it?
So you thought she was talking about a movie you were watching about a contract?
Yeah.
When in fact she was talking about the real contract killing that she says you knew about, and she was asking you if you could stop.
Yeah, apparently.
The court also heard that, unlike Zach, Trevor Tydd's DNA was found on one of the plastic gloves worn by the killers, although it's possible Trevor picked up the glove after Chris discarded it. So you're saying you're innocent of all those allegations, and your explanation is that the people who did accept that they commissioned or carried out this killing are maybe trying to shift some small part of the blame to you?
Roughly, yes.
Roughly, yes. Have I got that all accurate?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm really grateful for your time. Thanks very much.
No worries. Anytime.
All the best. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Well, that was extraordinary. That was the man we've been trying to get in touch with now for 4-5 weeks solidly. There are several substantial allegations against him in the evidence that went to court, that he knew about the murder before it took place, that he was actually involved in distributing the money for the murder, that he cleaned up after the murder, that he disposed of the murder weapons. Trevor denies all of this, and he was never charged nor called as a witness at the trial. Why not? We tried to ask the police and the Territory's Director of Public Prosecutions, but both refused to talk. Which means no one will explain why these two people, Trevor and Zach, were treated so differently. One of those people was found guilty and put in jail. The other is free and was talking to me on the phone today. And it's just an extraordinary contrast. But where does that leave Zach?
Very mixed emotions always, because having to travel from Katherine and then coming in, seeing Zach and then having to leave each and every time.
We're not allowed to visit Zach with his mother, which means the only time we've heard his voice is when we've been with the family and he's called.
The judge, I remember it didn't make sense, but he was like, I have no choice but to give you 20 years, and then says how it's the fault of the mandatory system that I have 20 years, and it inevitably brings about injustice. At the time, I was like, wait, didn't you just sentence me to 12 years? And my mate Chris has just sat next to me and said, Zach, you just got 20 years, and I just looked at him like, oh. But it still took like another 2 years for it to actually sink in.
Zach's been in jail for 6 years now, and it is starting to take its toll.
It's like there is nothing that you can do to hurt me. And as a mother, and hearing that, like today he said to me, it gets to the point, Mum, where if you died, I wouldn't show emotion. I'd be sad, but I would not give in to them to see my pain. I am now empty. He now has given up, thinking, just don't worry about me, just leave me here. There's nothing you can do. Just get on with your life, Mum. I can't do that as a mother, because my children are my life, and this is not right. This is wrong. What's happened to him?